Okay, so looking at, so this is part two of the videos about habits and how to create positive ones and how to break negative ones, okay? And the first thing I want you to consider is that there is some real value in a starting point, which is this. Something that is a habit now was once a conscious choice, something I did on purpose, okay, to deal with a particular situation. And it may have been successful and it may not have been, but I chose to do it first and it then evolved into something that I had no choice over, okay? Now, one of the reasons why that's valuable is because you're tracing yourself back to when did you give your power to something. When did you set up a cycle within self, which might be to do with your thoughts, your communication, might be to do with your physical actions, like biting your nails, okay? And there is some value in looking at the source of that, okay? Now, one thing that you do want to be aware of is just because you find the originating incident, like it might be, oh, I was in a situation, something bad happened, I made a decision, and since then I've been doing this thing, okay, whatever it is. Just because you find that doesn't mean that you're never going to do it again, because the pattern of behavior can run outside of the thing that started it, and you can take the thing out sometimes, and the habits, the behavior, including thoughts you might have, emotions you might feel, actions you might take without knowing it, actions you take afterwards that you do know about, all of those things can feed into each other. They can keep themselves going without needing this central thing, okay? So, when I talk about breaking a habit, I don't mean that you will never do it again, that you'll never have those thoughts, that you'll never take those actions. What I do mean, though, is being able to, if you think of a habit as a circle, so it feeds itself, okay, creating many different ways to break out of that negative behavior, that negative process, and actually then start to move into positive behavior, okay? So often there is a trigger before the habit begins, like it might be anxiety, for example, okay? Or it might be a repressed communication, something that someone doesn't say. And if you recognize that, you can break out of the habit just by putting your brain on loudspeaker, saying to somebody, look, I've just had this thought about something that might happen. Can't do anything about it, but I just want to verbalize it so I'm not holding it in my body, okay? Or I've just done something, I didn't really want to do it, I don't really like doing it, but I know it leads into something else. So I'm articulating it, I'm saying it so that I can break myself out of that pattern, okay? Because I've recognized where it goes. And so you then start to recognize how to break out of a habit. But the key things are punishing yourself doesn't work because that's normally included in the cycle of a habit. Okay, so having negative thoughts about yourself, talking to yourself like, you know, in a judgmental way, and all of those things trigger the area between the mind and the body. So being hypercritical or talking to yourself negatively in the back of the neck actually builds in pressure in this area, builds in tension, which just perpetuates the cycle, okay? So removing those things actually is really helpful in finding more ways to break yourself out of the negative behavior and move into positive ones. And the key thing for me here is doing that as quickly as you possibly can. It might take you a week to break a habit, first of all, and you might stay out of it for a few hours. But then after that, it might take you a day to break out of it, and you might stay out of it for a day. And at some point, you get to an experience where you break out of it so quickly, people don't even notice. Like, you know, you don't get your nails in your mouth before you recognize that you were about to do something. And then you know that you've gone part way around a cycle of a habit, but other people don't know. Yeah? At some point, it can become just a mental thing where you have a thought about, I don't know, a chocolate bar, for example, or about not getting out of bed to go to the gym. Okay? But just that momentary thought actually triggers you to remind yourself of why something is important to you and what the results are that you can produce if you break out of your habit. So actually that negative cycle starts to, if you like, be the pathway to many different positive actions and reactions.